and welcome to Victoriana. It's the 1st of February and overnight we've had a little sniff of snow, which is good for us. We actually need some cold weather. January has been ridiculously warm. Things are growing away. Here we are in our top house. All these bits and pieces came in for the winter months just to give them a little bit of extra protection. This is an unheated greenhouse. And we're actually seeing way too much growth, something we don't really want just yet. But as you can see, we're quite full up in here with bits that have been pricked out into the autumn and bits that have been moved in. Because the weather's been so warm, we've actually had a good month of getting on with things. We've been really, really busy. We've been able to work outside and in. The boys have actually started potting up grapes, which are somewhere over there. We've even thought about starting to pot up some fruit trees because there's been a bit of movement on the bud on those as well. So we're trying to get ahead there. And yes, really, so January has been a really, really busy month for us, and we're going into February, and I think we're going to be very busy. We've got lots of propagation going on. So I'll give you a quick run around the nursery.
So out here on the herb garden and the vegetable garden, January's been a really good month. We've managed to dig over something like about 3/4 of it in total, bits and pieces on each bed. Obviously we've got some crops still left in. There's plenty of sprouts and bits and pieces of brassicas over in the cage there. And yes, so we've been digging away. The boys have been out here for a couple of hours each day. And we've also been manuring at the same time, which usually we'd have left that and let the frost get into the ground before manuring. But there hasn't been much sign of frost until the last few days, so we took the attitude that we'd get everything done in one hit, get the manure on as well. So hopefully we're going to be ahead for when the weather cheers up and really does warm up properly. But as I say, at the moment it's actually nice to see some frost and see a little bit of snow on the ground. It's the same sort of story down at the front of the nursery where we usually grow the flowers. That's all been dug over. We've just got a few carnations left in the ground, but other than that we've lifted any of the other perennial bits and dug over. This year we're actually going to change things around a little bit, and we're planning to have our peas down here, our climbing peas, so that they'll be much closer to the front where people will be able to see them. Obviously we'll do the sweet peas here as well, and probably once we've got the chrysanths and the dahlias in, that'll be about it filled up. But it's good to have a change round. So this has all been dug over, and once again it's been manured, and when we're ready we'll spin it over with the rotavator, and then it'll be ready for settling down and planting out, obviously. So here in the propagating area it's all systems go. The onions have already come off the heat and they're on the cold now. They've germinated nicely. Dad's up there sowing some bits and pieces now. Yesterday we were sowing tomatoes, and really it's now just going through and getting everything underway. So it's not only in the prop area that we've seen some germination. We're outside here, and this is bits and pieces that actually need the frost to germinate. So we're looking at some wild primroses here that have sat here patiently through the winter months as seed, and have only recently germinated because we've seen some frost, and they're poking their heads through bravely through the snow, or the little sprinkling of snow that we've got. Perfect conditions for these. That's exactly what they want, and we'll leave these outside now for the time being, and when they're big enough they'll be pricked out and be absolutely wonderful. But it's one of those crops that actually needs to be out in this sort of weather to germinate properly. So yeah, very good to see that finally we're getting some germination on some of the bits and pieces, but we're still waiting to see germination on one or two of the other outdoor bits and pieces, which hopefully will come if we can have a bit more prolonged cold weather. Down in the woods, Simon has also been quite busy. Recently he's been concentrating on just getting timber onto the ground so that he can later process it, but earlier in the month he was making a beautiful arbour for someone, which for the first attempt, taking on something that is 60 feet long, was probably a bit over ambitious, but it literally does look beautiful, and if I can get some pictures of it on the internet I will. And other than that, he's been preparing really for the season ahead, sorting out fence posts, splitting wood for rails. Here are one or two stakes I think that are going to be for us, for our pea cage and bits and pieces like that. So I think he's pleased where he is, and hopefully it's going to be an interesting season for him. The only worry for us at the moment, if that is the right way of putting it, is that here we are, first day of February, and if I can just go down, you'll actually see that the bluebells are already up, which is completely mad. I think this cold snap now will probably slow them down a bit, but it just shows how mad the season's being at the moment, that here we are, as I say, beginning of February, and we've got bluebells on the ground.